Hello and welcome to another interesting episode of Business Insights with Irene. We have a very special guest today, one who is so dear to my heart. I know she knows it already. Her name is Mrs. Saadiya Aliyu. She is the Managing Director and CEO of Urban Shelter. She's so many things to so many people: mother, friend, sister, wife, CEO, leader, mentor, and a lot more. But just sit tight, and I'm sure you have a lot to learn from today's conversation. Thank you so much, Mrs. Saadiya, for having this conversation with us. Finally, the interview which we have really hoped for is here.
Yeah, I think I should be saying thank you. Thank you very much for having me on Business Insight, Irene, and I look forward to kind of this session. It's been long overdue. I appreciate your patience in scheduling this.
Definitely. I mean, it's a lot, and like I introduced you, you're so many things to so many people. But let's start with Urban Shelter, where you lead as the Managing Director and CEO. It's a 30-year-old company going on 31, if I'm correct. And I mean, I'm sure this has not come without its own kind of challenges, but I'll allow you at this point give us a bit of a background as to how Urban Shelter started, where we are now, and where we intend heading in the future.
Thank you very much for that intro. So Urban Shelter, like you mentioned, is a 30-plus-year-old company. It's a real estate development company. So what it essentially means is we go into neighborhoods, we go into different sections of Nigeria to kind of try and change the skyline. Now, the ethos of what started this is Malam Ibrahim Aliyu, and what he said is, look, we're Nigerians, we're having children, our population is growing, and everybody will need shelter. I think once I came on board, my understanding was that shelter is a very basic human right, and we felt that this is something that Urban Shelter could contribute to Nigeria. Now in its 30 years, we've been able to do a lot. It's been challenging, like you've mentioned, I think, like any economy or any industry. But what's made it particularly fulfilling is to be able to see families, starting their first home in a one-bedroom, moving into a moving into a 5 bedrooms, and then you hear the same family is kind of buying the first flat for their daughter or their son getting married. And I think it's very exciting for us to be part of that growth. We have an in-house motto where whatever you have to invest in terms of funds, we will find a product that suits you. It might be that you're starting your first tailoring shop, it might be that you want to have your dream house, and it's exciting for us, I think, to try and do that. I think another difference for Urban Shelter as well is whilst most real estate companies are localized, they're either Lagos-based or Abuja-based, we manage now to be on 3-4 locations. So we have our flagship office here in Abuja, the headquarters. We also have our office in Lagos, we have an office in Kaduna State and in Niger State. A bit like Abia, I've also been eyeing up Enugu State for quite some time, so that's also something and kind of part of our expansion plans that I'm really looking forward for us to be part of.
I mean, we look forward to having you in Abia. I'm from Abia, so I mean, well, something people would be wondering, she is the Managing Director and CEO, really, but I need them to understand at this point that you were not just handed the golden ring of leadership because, if you're a family member, but you earned it. You literally started from the bottom, and as a popular saying, and now we're here. But it'd be great to also understand what your story has been, what the journey has been like for you.
So, Urban Shelter, like I described in terms of the resource company, you're right, I should point out it's a family-run business. So what that means is, 30 years ago, Malam Ibrahim Aliyu, his brother Malam Musa Dangogo Aliyu, kind of started up this company. And Malam Musa Dangogo Aliyu was the pioneer managing director for a good 20-25 years. And about 7-8 years ago, we thought it was time to retire, it was time to explore the opportunities. And by that time, I'd been in Urban Shelter for about 7 years. So collectively, I've been here 15 years. And I started off as the assistant to the chairman, be the SA to the DG, be the SA to the minister, the SA to the chairman or anything like that. It opens up opportunities for you because then there's everything that the chairman knows you also get to know. And from there on, you begin to kind of have that build-up. Now, I think coming into this as well, my background isn't necessarily engineering. So my background is economics, it's finance, and it's development. But because I was raised in a family of real estate, for instance, it was what I call my bread and butter. So being able to read floor plans was something I did very early on. Being able to look at engineering was something that I did very early on. Even if I didn't want to, these were conversations that we're having at the dining table. So you learn quite quickly, sorry. But to be able to have that real estate mind and to know what it is to be in a real estate market and these opportunities and trends as they present. So I did work from the bottom, as it were. And you have to realize that for your company to succeed, you can't just put your son, your daughter, or your cousin, because if we were not doing something right, there wouldn't be an urban shelter today.
Exactly.
So, and most of us went through 2015, 2016 recession, and it was a really tough time for all companies, but we really dug deep, and it's something that I'm proud as, that as a leadership of Urban Shelter at the time, we were able to really kind of transform the company, and it led to really growth successively year on year until, of course, everybody then hit COVID years. But that's in a kind of nutshell how I got involved in the company.
I mean, it's beautiful to see because in this part of the world, we struggle to find family-run businesses that are able to stand the test of time, particularly when or after the chairman or the main founder is gone. If you find that the children start to mismanage the business, as it were. But what would you say that you have done, the family line has done right? What can people learn from this?
So this is, by the way, not just unique to Nigeria or even Africa. So in family businesses, it's a dirty word, but it's called succession planning. Family businesses don't like to talk about succession planning. You're essentially saying that the head of this is going to either pass away or is going to retire. But we've had open conversations about what the next generation should look like. And I think that's now allowed Urban Shelter to transition into that leadership role for successive generations to come. And we're now in the second generation. As a family, we identify the next batch to see who do we grow. Even as kids now, which of them likes climbing on things, which of them likes engineering. And to explain also, Urban Shelter is part of a broader group of companies. So for instance, there's Shelter Suits, hospitality arm, and my sister actually operates that.
Okay.
No psychologist, and my brother is a director of that. So we're all engaged in different things, different aspects. So there's a Shelter at Play factory that I probably should have mentioned as well, where it's kind of almost a tribute to our heritage, where we produce branch red bricks that you kind of find in northern parts of the country. There's a lot of our affordable homes in that. So because we know that we're not centered just on one business, but a group of businesses, that succession planning, I would really advise companies that are not doing that, take the time, have a strategy session on that, to say how do we see future generations working on this. We believe really strongly that we're building a legacy, so it's not something that starts and stops with the first generation, starts and stops with Saadiya, but it's passed on and on and on. So that's really central.
I reckon people would, ask or say that this role which you take on, being the managing director and CEO of Urban Shelter, is one that ideally a man should take responsibility of, being that Nigeria is somewhat a patriarchal society. Have you been able to manage all of these many challenges?
So I think you raise a really valid issue on the question, because whether we like it or not, the reality is the whole world itself is kind of a patriarchal situation or society. Urban Shelter, I think, as a company, I'll discuss Urban Shelter as a company, what we're doing about kind of advancing women's interests, and also just like to mention about my own personal experience. So Urban Shelter, we actually have more women working in Urban Shelter than we do men. That's a good plus.
Wow.
But we, unfortunately, by the time we get to managerial positions, that number reduces significantly. Having said that, in terms of project management, we have also 40% also are women in terms of our project managers. And then what I'm really proud about, of course, is that once you get to governance in terms of our board, it's actually 60% women against 40% men.
Okay.
So we're very intentional about kind of progressing women, and we're hoping to see more women in these kind of industries and these kind of fields. And actually we take a lot of NYC and IT students, and we try and get as many women in as possible. Now, in terms of my personal journey, it has been a challenge in certain situations, and in other situations actually it hasn't. For instance, I've realized there are far more challenges that come because people are always shocked that I'm not an engineer or I'm not an architect. They're always very shocked when it comes because I'm a woman. Having said that, it can be difficult to have your voice listened to, for people to take attention. Every event I go to, almost every conference I'm at, to every panel, I'm always the only person that looks like me. They see a Hajia approaching, and immediately assumptions are made about you. What I did very early on is to humble myself, and not because so much that I'm a woman, but because I didn't know this industry from that technical perspective. And I did, so the chairman at the time, I attended every meeting. I asked questions, I went back to books, I tried to learn as much as I could, so that when these opportunities came to build, to be part of events, to be able to speak about real estate, that I built up that confidence. And like anything you don't know, when you're able to learn about it, you take away that fear of it. Incidentally also, why I say it's been both good and negative, it's been good because the mentors in my life have tended to be men. And so even when I'm having conversations about advancing women's issues in society, making sure there's more gender equity, I think the conversation isn't that we're ignoring men. I think we would be naive to do that because most of us need these men that are in positions of influence to be able to mention our names during meetings.
Right.
Business decisions and promotions happen on the golf course. So we do it in the Ora Auri where marriages are going on. It happens in the churches sometimes. And so you need men there that are going to advocate and say, oh, I know an Irene, I think she'll be fantastic for this role. I know a Saadiya, I think she'll be fantastic for this course or for this promotion.
Right.
So that's really important. But my first 1 or 2 breaks in my career over the last 21 years have actually been men. A very sad thing is I had resistance from women than I have with men.
With men.
And that's very disappointing because women, we need to learn to play along better with each other. We need to break the boys' club and create more girls' club.
Right.
We need to advocate for each other. We need to understand that because one woman is in a position of leadership does not crowd out Irene from being in a position of leadership. That there is a lot of space at the top for all of us also meant to
play.
So that would be my one kind of advice to them.
I mean, it's so important because I get to see a lot of women complain about this same issue. The fact that even while they work in offices, it's either their female manager who is making life difficult for them sometimes, and these are conversations we need to start having more of. While we want to have a seat at the table, we also need to learn how to collaborate with ourselves and get the best out of these things. Now, delving into the subject of real estate in Nigeria, what changes have you seen in the area of regulating building and construction, the building and construction sector? We've seen a sporadic rise in the number of buildings, particularly in Lagos, to really emphasize on that. Number of buildings that have collapsed, and somebody signed off on these documents. Somebody signed off that these things were good enough to be brought into the country. What have you seen in this regard?
So thank you for a difficult but very needed question, and I want to just take a second to say it has been a very sad situation for us in the industry to witness what's been going on over the last, I think, 5, 7, 8 years or so. Building collapses, notably in Lagos, 1 or 2 in Abuja, but mainly, I think,
in Lagos.
Yeah. And we communicate with everybody that's been involved in that. Now, in that vein, it's not a singular answer or singular change. It's a collaborative effort, in everybody or every institution, every organization that's involved in that, and that comes both in the public sector and from private sector. And in public sector is what you mentioned. So it's the regulatory framework, it's the regulatory institutions that are overseeing everything from approving designs, approving buildings, doing sign-off for It comes from the developer side, from doing the right drawings, from engaging the right consultants that are actually knowing the engineering work.
Right.
It also involves the suppliers. It involves the manufacturer, for instance, of cement. It involves the block making industry. So all the different factors that go into construction. The issue of quality and standardization of quality is incredibly important. Because if we do and build to specifications as outlined by different building codes, this won't happen. So what tells us is that either people or companies are circumventing these codes, they are not being regulated, or they are not having appropriate oversight, and then individual companies also and their leadership are not being accountable for what they're building, and that's what results in this. Now, as a company, Urban Shelter, it's something obviously we take seriously. This isn't just property; these are lives at stake, and in a business sense as well. Not to sound kind of brash, the best thing you can do is to build the right house that is safe for the right property. It's an obvious because people come back to you time and time again. It's such a damaging thing to create a building that collapses, and that's the end of your business. It's the end of your empire. It's the end of everything you've kind of valued. So this is something that is really kind of foreign to us as a company because we put a lot of stake in the effort we do. We have engineering department, we have an architecture unit, we have a quality monitoring control unit that kind of ensure that each day this is being done. So for Urban Shelter, even if there wasn't a government organization, a government agency to oversee construction is being done, this is part of our own corporate social responsibility. It's part of our own business ethics to ensure that we're building what we should be doing, we're building correctly, and we're creating buildings that are going to stand the test of time for years and years, decades and decades to come.